Masechet Bava Kama Kuf Tes Vav Amud Aleph. 1 second, please. I'll stop and I'll recontinue. Masechet Bava Kama Daf Kuf Tes Vav Amud Aleph. It's very easy to find our place in the Amud because we are just right after the parentheses, or you can call them round brackets. Yeah, and the line starts with the word Zvina. And the Shiur's Lo Nishmas of Imer Menachem ben Akiva, Lilu Nishmas Zekeni Akiva ben Yitzchak, and Le Sobas Moshe, and Le First Estafum Bas Shana Malka, Le First so Le Bas Tama. This Basrifka so Esther Bas Shendo. Yeah, good. Abraham Shmuel Abraham ben Yudis. And Chana Basima. Yeah, Chana Basima. Weiter. Sarabas Nachama B'Soch Shachal Israel and for Moshe Kleinerman also. So now, what did we say about Takanas HaShuk? Takanas HaShuk, after all said and done, is really not such a difficult concept to understand. The idea is if a person came innocently to a store, we assume he was innocent, we can't prove otherwise. In other words, he bought something from a Ganav, he shouldn't have, but he did, he didn't know. And now, if the Ganav is not around, the Ganav, like every good Ganav, he knows how to escape the scene just in time, right? So he's not around. So now the Bailim confronts the actual current holder of the item, be it a Sefer, what? The Sheni, Mr. Sheni, Gabe Sheni, Stam. And what? And now he can claim back the item, but he does have to pay him back because of Takanas HaShuk. The real owner has to give back the value of the item to the person who's now holding it, because otherwise people would never buy anywhere. They say maybe it's a stolen good, maybe stolen schmollen. There won't be a healthy, normal market for customers. Customers, Customer. Thank you. Yeah, the value. He has to take Shavua, the entire thing. Yeah, ad kedei kach. So now we made exceptions to the rule. What exception number one? I'm not talking if the Ganav is around. That's a scary chart. We'll go back to it a little bit later. What happens if the Ganav was a well-known Ganav, famous in the world of Ganovim? Then there's not a Takanas HaShuk, because then, mister, it's your fault. Why did you buy something from a well-known Ganav? You didn't know? Well, should have checked, yeah? He's a Ganav. He probably Ganaved you also. So therefore, then we don't pay back. What about a loan with a mashkoin? We said depends, right? A loan, normally, that's important to know for now. Let's say there was a loan taken. Reuven lends money to you-know-who, to Shimon, of course. Now, he thought Shimon was a good guy, and he relied on Shimon to give him back cash. There was no collateral, bichlal, in the horizon, no candlestick, and no schmendelsticks. And what? All of a sudden, Shimon came, surprised him. Oh, you know what? I'm so sorry, I don't have the 5,000 shekels. I have this really nice, candlestick heirloom from my grandmother. Really, it's an heirloom from from the victim's grandmother, yeah? Shimon stole and returned his debt with, unexpectedly, I repeat, with that item. So then, eventually, Mr. Victim, whose candlesticks really belong to him, comes and confronts the Malve, who was paid back with the real owner's candlesticks illegally, right? So then we don't have Takanas HaShuk. Why? Because he says you did not rely on those candlesticks. It's not like, oh, I pulled the rug from under your feet. We were both surprised by Mr. Ganav. It wasn't something you were building on, you were relying on. In Hebrew, we say you build on it, yeah? We're relying on it. And therefore, I'll get my candlesticks, and it's not like I'm breaking the rules of the market, yeah? Or creating the lack of trust. However, if Shimon already stole the items before, and Shimon tells Reuven, the Malve, please lend me 5,000 shekels, I need it for food. Look, no problem. If I don't give you 5,000, look, I have right in front of you, I have those candlesticks. Yeah. So Reuven was relying on the candlesticks when the transaction was happening. Then there is Takanas HaShuk, and when the whole bubble blows, eventually, of course, Reuven will have to give the candlesticks back to who? To Mr. Real Owner. But Mr. Real Owner will have to give the value of the candlesticks to Mr. Malve because he was relying on it. It's like a Kenyan. Yeah, he interrupted the normal way. Others people never lend. People never buy. We don't want that. We want to keep a healthy shuk. Comes the Gemara now, and we are in the Zavina. The line starts with parentheses and then Zavina. Zvina shove b'shove. Let's say somebody bought shove b'shove, regular price. let's say the price is right, as you say in America. Yeah, there was what? He bought candlesticks worth 5,000, and that's real market value. Also, what Takanas HaShuk? Then, of course, it's Takanas HaShuk. I bought an item for the real, normal, fair price. Takanas HaShuk. You may even say there's not a chiddush. Now comes the chiddush. Shove mea b'mason. Sometimes you pay somebody double the price. When would that be? Knowingly. I'm not even talking about a person who's schwindler and being lied to. Let's say there's a guy who offers you something that costs 100, you give him 200. Why would you do that?
Because you're outbidding the competitors. You have other competitors who offer.
But the real value is 100.
And you want it, so you pay more for it.
Okay, but then that becomes a real value. I'm talking about a case in which the real value is 100, and everyone wants to pay 100, but you, from some reason, pay an extra mamish double. I hear you. I'm not denying Lagamra, but it's not the case over here.
Because I know that somebody else
Okay. Ad kedei kach, you're risking Takanas HaShuk taking place. Okay. Where's your kind heart, people? Where's your charity? Where is your good Jewish heart? I'm sure you all have good Jewish hearts inside of you. You know why? There's the poor guy. The poor guy's trying to make a living, so it's half tzedakah. Yeah, somebody told me about his friend. You know, he sells these art pieces. A bite from him, it's a halb tzedakah, and that's what's going on over here. In other words, he knowingly pays double, which means it's not really called paying for the item. It's a form of, like a vitur, like a tzedakah is being nice, like a matana. It's a matana. You want to give him a gift, but in a mechubadik way. So instead of the guy going like that, saying, I'm marrying off 10 children tonight, tzedakah, instead of that, sell me your old hat, and instead of 10 shekels, I'll pay 20. In other words, to make it more mechubed. I'm not denying what you guys are saying, but that's not how we view it, over here. So now here's the question: is that Takanas HaShuk or not? Now that item was really stolen. The one you paid double for knowingly. Rav Sheshes says that's not Takanas HaShuk, because it's a matana. Just like the extra 100 was a matana, so to the first 100, they all looked as one tzedakah case. You want it to be nice. You bought it also pseder to make him feel good. But don't tell me, I'm a customer. And the whole thing was any tzedakah from your side. So when it comes out that the poor man who sold you the item and you paid double, that item was stolen, don't ask me now to give you back the 200, which is really viewed as matana. Rashi doesn't say tzedakah, says matana, same thing. Rava argues on Rav Sheshes, also but Takanas HaShuk. Rava says there is Takanas HaShuk, because at the end of the day, it was a transaction. At the end of the day, it was not a charity box of pushka. The form it took was a purchase. The reason I paid double, that's none of your business, sorry to say. That is because I have my interest to pay double because of this, that, or the other. I'm being nice. Well, there was a fact here of the shape and form it took was a transaction, was a kinyan. If a kinyan, there's Takanas HaShuk. Ma alohe the hilchasa. You wanted to know the halacha. Bekulu also but Takanas HaShuk. In all above cases where there's a machloikes, there is Takanas HaShuk. Even when numbers don't fit exactly, all kind of questionable things, there is always Takanas HaShuk, lebar, except for migonav upor bechoivoy, gonav upor bekefoy, except for the guy who stole in order to pay his debt. It's really the same thing. Choivoy and a kefer are different types of debts. Again, if the collateral was not expected by the lender, a candlestick, I thought they were going to give me an envelope of 5,000 shekels. In that case, when there is a choif, which is not a kinyan, and those items were not on the table, excuse the pun, then we say it's not part of your deal. And if I, the real owner, come to retrieve my candlesticks from you, the malveh, I will not have to pay you anything, and that's agreed upon. One more exception, says Tosfos, is the case of the famous, infamous Ganev, the well-known Ganev. There's no Takanas HaShuk. Because I'm sorry, you were foolish. You were foolish and you were not smart when you came and you bought from a well-known Ganev. Why did you go there? You're now blaming me? You shouldn't have bought it. And if you did, hey, give it back to me and you'll not get compensated. 2 dots. When the 2 dots, I think the paper fell. Is the paper Divrei Torah? I'm sorry. Yeah, says the Heilige Gemara, the 2 dots. Very interesting story with a lot of meforshim. I just want to stress that throughout the sugya, there's no use, right? And therefore, the real owner is still the original owner and not the second guy. Just keep it simple without everything else. We saw yesterday Begadol, it's much simpler. No use, no Kenyan. You didn't go through the protocol. So it still fully belongs to the real guy, to the original guy, and he claims it. Avad. Says the Gemara, story time. Very, it's not complicated because I'll explain it to you. This upcoming story, there are a lot of explanation necessary, but we'll be okay. Avimi Bar Nazi, and the story is still about the Takanas HaShuk. Chamua de Ravina Hava. There was a man called Avimi Bar Nazi, and he was lucky enough to be the father-in-law of the famous Ravina, of the Moira Ravina. And you know what happened to Avimi Bar Nazi? He's a nice guy. He was a nice man. Have Masik Bahu Gavra Arbo Zuzi. He lent, and Masik was going to charge. He was charging. He was, the one who lent, and therefore wants to charge. There's no word in English for it exactly. Whatever. He's collecting or about to collect. How much? 4 zuzim from a person who borrowed from me 4 zuzim. So far, so good. Unfortunately, the borrower, you know what he did? He's our guy. Ganav glima. He stole a robe, cloak. He stole a garment. Asya nihalei, and he gave it to him. He gave it to him. And if you want to be smart, you listen to me now. It's not so clear why he gave it to him. I would say why. It's a return, right? You returned him the debt. I'm so sorry. There's no 4 zuzim in my house. So instead, you have this nice cloak worth 4 zuzim. So I'm tempted to say what? This was a return for the loan, right? It's not so simple. Let's just keep it in the back burner. Keep in mind that maybe it's something else. But the pashtus, what do you think? He borrowed 4. He's giving him now a cloak. It doesn't know how much a cloak is worth, by the way. Could be it's worth 8. I don't know. He's giving him a cloak. Okay. And they kept quiet. You know what happens later? He says, I'm so sorry. I want to borrow again. A day later, 2 days later, another 4 zuzim again were lent. So again, there was a loan of 4 and then a so-called possible return with a stolen cloak. And there was another loan of 4 zuzim. And it's not so clear if there's any kind of security on the second loan of, again, 4 zuzim. That's the end of their agreement. L'soif hukar. Before he returned the second 4 or another stolen cloak or something, the ganav, meaning the borrower, was found out with egg on his face to be just that, a ganav. The borrower was found out to be a ganav. Now they don't know what to do. Is there Takanas HaShuk? Shel Ravina's Shver Nazi, Avimi Bar Nazi, should he now give back the cloak from who? Give back the cloak to the owner, to the legal owner who just appeared very angry. Where is my cloak? Where is my robe? And now, does the owner have to give him 4 zuzim or not? At the Takanas HaShuk? Yes or no? So now, you may have your opinions. Let's let the Gemara talk. So now, Osel Kamei de Ravina, he came to Ravina. Although Ravina was his son-in-law, he can have a din by Ravina, say already the Rishonim, the Am Shlomo, no problem. Why? How can one be judged by his own shver? First of all, the shver and the son-in-law don't always manage so well. That's besides the point. But because you can choose it, if both sides agree to be judged by a person who's related to one of the sides, that's okay. And that's what the few Meforshim say. Okay, so that's kosher. Yeah, let's have Chas v'Shalom, I don't know, a din Torah with Ellen, and we decided Ellen's son will be the judge. That's okay. I rely on Ellen's son, even though he's your son. If both sides agree to be judged by the relative of one of the sides, that's fine. That's unanimously agreed. It's unfortunate Gemara in Sanhedrin. But what did Ravina say? Ravina said like this. Omar says Ravina as follows: Kamoi, the first loan of 4, Gonav upora b'choyvoy, right? The first loan he stole. He gave back the loan with the stolen cloak, with the stolen garment. The owner doesn't owe you anything. Why? Because, as we said many times today already, you did not rely on that cloak. That cloak was not expected, right? So, Mimela, the real owner, does not have to compensate you. Because when you lent the ganav for Zuzim, you did not expect the glima. The glima was not even in his so-called possession, right? So, Mimela, for sure, don't make that. That's, we just thought 5 times I said it already, right? When Nazi, what's his name? Avimi Bar Nazi lent the money. There was no cloak in the horizon at all. He expected money. The cloak came surprisingly. In such a case, the owner of the cloak does not have to give you back anything. He'll take the cloak and go home. However, there's a second loan. There's a repeating loan of again 4 zuzim. Arba Zuzi, but Hanach Arba Zuzi Achrini, the second for Shko Zuzach v'Hadar Glimi. Wow. In other words, take your Zuzim from the real owner, give him the Glima, which means here Ravina thought that the Glima was not just a return for the first loan, it was also a promise and the collateral for the second loan. Wow. It's very hard to understand. How can you pay the same sum twice with the same sum? I assume, and that's my own idea, probably collaterals many times, as we said before, are worth double as much. So it could be the cloak was worth 8. So that could be very nice now, the pshat, which means I borrowed 4, and look, I came back to you with a cloak of 8. I'm a nice guy. I return on time. He didn't say it was stolen, but you know what? That cloak is worth 8. So al hacheshbon on the account, be nice and futuristic, and on the cloak that I gave you, on the same cloak, give me another loan of 4. And if so, at the second loan, the cloak was expected, was already on the table. So then there is Takanas HaShuk. There is Takanas HaShuk. So it's at the second loan, says Ravina, really we would connect the cloak to the second loan. If it was expected, then you can say, oh, I was cheated out. And therefore, you, Mr. Dear father-in-law, you may, yes, ask for compensation from the real owner, because here Takanas HaShuk applies. That's what Ravina believes. And if you don't think like Ravina, listen to the following opinion. Maskif lo Rav Kohen, first time in my life at least, there's saw Rav Kohen in the Gemara. I saw Rav Kahana, but there's Rav Kohen for the first time. Maskif lo Rav Kohen. Rav Kohen attacks Ravina's opinion, and he says, how do you know? Why are you interpreting? They didn't say anything. That glima in the middle, which came between loan 1 and 2, was unspoken about. It was a white elephant in the room. It was like, a taboo issue. They didn't really specify what is this glima about. So Ravina explains to me what it means, a collateral for the upcoming next loan. Frekt Rav Kohen, how do you know? He's attacking Ravina. The Dilma maybe. Glima behani zuzi kamoi avani alei. Really, the glima was a return only for the first loan for Zuzi. And therefore, Gonav par bechoiva, Gonav par bekefoi. And obviously, you do not have to get it back. That everyone agrees on. The first loan was given empty, on al-rek, meaning not for any collateral. The collateral came later, unexpected. Gonav pora. You're not supposed to get back any money from the lender because you did not rely on his item. However, Varboz Zuzi Basroi, the second 4, no, you're saying they came because of the collateral? Mapitom, Heimuni Heimne. No, he believed the Ganav, he didn't know it was a Ganav. He believed his borrower, the lender believed the borrower, and he lent him another 4 without any collateral. Very, very chashuv a note to your wife today. That's the point. We see the psychology of the Rabbi Avimi Bar Nazi. The first time he was very trusting. Why shouldn't we say the second time was also trusting? The collateral wasn't a collateral. It was a return for the first loan. Gamarnu with 1 loan. He actually returned it very nicely on time. That's a nice cloak, red, blue, and green. I don't know. And now comes the new loan on empty with no, just like he trusted him first time, trusted him second time. And therefore, what comes out? Comes out that really you have no right whatsoever to claim anything from the real owner who comes and angrily takes back his cloak, because you never relied on his cloak. Even after it existed on your table, you still lent the second one innocently and trustingly. Igadol Milsa, at the end of the day, the world rolled over. In other words, the word spread in English, the word spread. That Din Torah spread amongst, Talmidei Chachamim, Batanim, Batamedrash. Like today, sometimes a halachi case everyone talks about. Mata lekamed Rabbi Abo. Rabbi Abo, came. It was in Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Abo, it came to his door. That case. Omar Hilchas Rav Kohen. He said, Aloha is like Rav Kohen. That what? Since the collateral was not specifically given for the second loan, we assume the second loan was, empty, collateral less, and therefore what? Therefore, in the Chinami, you will not get anything back. You, the shver of Nazi, Avimi Bar Nazi. Now, however, Shulchan Aruch says that obviously if they specified, if upon returning the cloak, the first loan, if you said, that's a nice cloak, I want to keep it as a collateral, then obviously there is Takanas HaShuk, right? Obviously. because he decided already before the second loan, this will be my collateral, and you, Mr. Owner, can't pull the rug from under his feet. That's Shulchan Aruch. Quick and nice questions are welcome. Thank you. Ellen is asking a good question, which is really machlokes apostle. Yesterday in the chart, we said really that if the thief is known, by the way, I'm not sure the thief is known. I mean, we know that he stole, but let's say the thief is here. We said there's no Takanas HaShuk. What? Yeah, obviously, it wasn't known before, obviously. At some point, he was known. Frekt Ellen, there's no Takanas HaShuk if the Ganav is here. And here it looks like there is Takanas HaShuk. Very, very nice. If you remember the chart, I'm sure you all know the chart by heart. So really, if you hold like the last opinion of Rav Papa, according to Rabbi Yochanan, if you go to the Rabbi Yochanan Rav Papa checker, then there is the Takanas HaShuk, even if the Ganav was found. And who would have to deal with the Ganav? Of course, the owner. The owner, in order to retrieve the actual item, has to pay for the item. He gets the item and pays compensation. Where's the Ganav? You talk to the Ganav. Who's you? The real owner has to then retrieve the money from the Ganav. 2 court cases he has to go through because we protect the innocent customers so much. Customers, the second letter is a U. You will have a note to from Mitzvah Hashem. Yeah, in Hebrew. Weiter. Okay, fine. I'm happy you asked it because for the next sugya, it's going to be even more relevant. We are a few lines before the Mishnah Kuftes Bava Amud Aleph. We are in the line, and I'll listen to Yaakov in a minute. The line starts at Lekameh, and we are about to start a new story with the word Narsha'o. Narsha'o is the person who came from Narish. Narish was a city in Narish. Narish was a city where everybody was thieves. They were known to be thieves. They were dishonest people, like a certain country in Europe. Everybody says that. I'm not going to say who it is. We're online. Yeah. There's a country next to Israel where there are a lot of thieves. I won't tell you the truth. Now, so I usually sleep when that song is around. I'm usually like nodding off. Narshah, story time. Narshah, a man who came from the city of Narish. They were well-known Ganovim, and so too, I'm saving you a lot of trouble now. This Ganav from Narshah, say the Rishonim and Shulchan Aruch, he was a well-known Ganav. And you know what he did? Well, he did what he was supposed to be doing. Ganav Safra, he stole a sefer, not a book, a sefer. Zabne le Papuno, he sold it to another guy, another man who came from the city of Papunia. Betamnan Zuzi, he sold it to him from 80 Zuzi, 80. Betamnan Zuzi, he sold him the sefer for 80 zuz. I think that's a lot of money. Maybe it's like, original manuscript of the Rambam or something. Yeah, 80 zuz. He sold it to Papuno. Ozel Papuno. Papuno is not stupid. The Papuno sold it to somebody from Mechuza for 120. Now, I don't know if you know, but if you bought it for 80 and he sold it to 120, that means he made a profit of 40 zuzim. One day you'll get to my level. Yeah, so Lamaisa, so the in-between guy, the Papuno guy who sold it to the guy from Mechuza for 120, made a profit of 40. So how many people are involved in this story? 4. There's the person stolen from, there's the guy from Narish, the real crafty guy, Papuno is the middle guy, and Mechuza is the last guy. Why did the person from Mechuza pay 120? Because people in Mechuza are well known to be, wealthy, also because they were rich. That's what the mefunik, yeah. See under certain neighborhoods, yeah. In other words, yeah, the Maisa, he was rich and he could afford 120 to surprise his wife for her next birthday. So now, Losoifu Ganav. Oh no, the Ganav was Hukar. The man came angrily. No yush. Original guy who wants to save for Bahukober Kruk, yeah. And he, at the end of the day, the entire train, the entire Chadgadia was discovered. Omar Abaye, says Abaye, now we have 2 customers. Lamaisa, there are 2 customers which we may want to protect. The Papuno bought it for 80, right? And the Mechuznik, they bought it for 120. Says Abaye has one opinion and Rov a different opinion. Omar Abaye, Lezel Mar Safra, the owner of the sefer who now wants his sefer back. So now the Yovel Alaba Mechuzah Tamnen Zuzi. Let's do half at the Takanas HaShuk. Give him 80 zuz. Why? Because 80 zuz is really what was the original price, or the original price in this story. Yeah, 80 zuzi is what somebody at the beginning of the line, Mr. Ganav Narshah, he made 80 zuzi on my back. I'll give those 80 zuzi to Mr. who Mr. Last Customer, second and last customer, which is the mechoiza. Yishakil sifrei, and take your sefer, and you're good to go. Hey, you lost 40. I'm an innocent customer. Says who? Says Mr. Mechuza, because he bought it from the Papuno, who's not famous. He's not a famous ganav. We don't completely apply Takanas HaShuk here. There are too many hands. Takanas HaShuk here applies halfway, and therefore, if Bar Mechuza is at a loss of 40, because he was only compensated 80, and he's still short of 40, that 40, go to the guy who sold it to you, the Papuno, and finish. The Papuno is not such a sweetie man. Papuno probably knew he was stolen. Maskif la Rava. Rava doesn't like it. Rava says, no, I want full. Rava says, Rava, as the American Shita, Hashem, customer is always right. I apply Takanas HaShuk, Bahuka Bakruk, Takanas HaShuk. That's a nice title. Amar Rava, lazy, Maskif la Rava, Rava text. Ashta lokech miganav also but Takanas HaShuk, the one who buys, who's first hand from the ganav, this Takanas HaShuk, although he is one step away from the ganav, and maybe he knew, or maybe he did something wrong, and yet we assume he was innocent. Lokech mi buying, the one who's 2 steps away, removed from the ganav, was be'emes innocent. Yeah, he didn't buy stolen goods that looks shoddy. He bought stolen from stolen. We should protect him even more. So what if he changed more hands? Verkehrt. Changing more hands should give more protection to the more innocent guy who's at the end of the line, further from the ganav. Ela Rava. Therefore, Rava is applying to Takanas HaShuk, chazak chazak. Lezel mar disafra v'yovel bar mechazo 110 zuz. He should really, the book owner, the sefer owner, should give Mr. End of the line customer how much? The full 120 that he bought, because he really bought it super innocently. He's at the end of the line. He has no idea what you're talking about. He's a little boy at the end of the street. The shakil safrei, and take your sefer back from Mr. Last Customer Mechuza. Now you have to start dealing with different people. You, the real owner, the lezel mar de sifa, the owner of the sefer, should now go and do his legwork. 40 take from Papuno. Why are you taking 40 from Papuno? I already told you. It's a very difficult question. The answer, what? Papuno is also a customer. What do you want from him? Answer the Rishonim and the Shulchan Aruch. The Papuno was not a sweetie, little cutesy angel. The Papuno knew that he's buying from Narsha. Narsha are well-known Ganovim, is Muchzik Biganav, and therefore he's also, and he made nice profit of 40 zuz. The 40 zuz is cordially asked to give back to the original owner. The Tamnon Narsha and Mr. Narish, the first guy, the Narishkeit, he should really pay, obviously, the 80 that he made. So you pay 120 to the last customer, is really a blue-eyed domestic angel who has no fault, it's not his fault. You're stuck with 120, take 40 each cut from the person who made the cut up on your back, as they say, take it from them, you the owner, and that's the Takanas HaShuk. You the owner, you have to deal with it. There is a machlokes though, Ellen Rubinstein asking good. There are noise kelim shulchan aruch, I saw it last night at about 12 o'clock at night, that some people say that because the ganav is around, then you don't apply to Takanas HaShuk, like Abaye or something like that. Yeah. In other words, it's a shaila, it's a machlokes. In other words, some people do hold, like we were saying yesterday, like most opinions, that if the ganav is there, no Takanas HaShuk. I will retrieve the 120 worth sefer from Mr. Mechuza and tell him, I'm so sorry, here's a ganav. I know that you're very innocent, you're a nice guy, you're from Mechuza. I'm very happy you built yourself your second swimming pool and third tennis court, Mr. Mechuza. Very nice. But Lamaisa, you go and deal with the ganav, because the ganav is right here. So you deal with him. There is such an opinion in halacha, but it's a machlokes like any other machlokes we have in Shas and in halacha. Yes, I'm hearing your question now. It's a good time. We're about to start the Mishnah. Let's continue. It was not negated this year. Let's continue. Says the Mishnah. Beautiful new Mishnah. Says Eiliga Mishnah. The Mishnah tells you how friendly you have to be. It's a Mishnah about friendliness and neighborliness. So nice. Says the Mishnah. Zeba b'chavisa shel yain. We had a similar case, but don't get confused. What we saw a few days ago in the previous Amud is different, and you'll soon find the differences. Zeba b'chavisa shel yain. A person was walking down the road. Let's just imagine nobody else is around. It's just him and his wine barrel in the middle of the desert. No people around to help anybody there. The zeba b'kadosh shel dvash. All of a sudden, he sees somebody coming, approaching him from the other direction, somebody coming with a card with a jug of honey. The assumption is all over Shas that honey is more expensive than wine. Okay, that's the reality back then. And this the chavis shel dvash. Nobody bumped into anybody, Ellen. Elomai, the chavis shel dvash, from some odd reason, all of a sudden, nothing to do with the wine owner whatsoever. The chavis shel dvash, the jug of honey, from some reason started cracking up. Somebody told it a very funny joke, started cracking up. So now the honey is not so slowly and not so surely dripping and leaking big time into the sand floor, and it's getting lost. The shafach zes yeno, superhero, bam bam bam, comes to the rescue. Mr. Super Wine Owner, what did you do so valiantly? He spilled his own wine that's worthless. In other words, he saw that the other guy's jug is cracking up and breaking. He says, "Don't worry, I'll help you." And what? He emptied his wine. He poured and spilled his wine on the floor in the desert. Goodbye, wine. And now the honey, he has a room now to store the honey of his friend. That is so nice. But now he's asking for three things: kesef, money, and geld. What kind of geld is he asking for? He's now asking for the worth of the wine. He was friendly, but for money. In other words, he now wants to be paid the amount of wine that he spilled. Now, says the Mishnah, you will only get the schar of your work and the schar of renting out your kli. In other words, the actual wine that you spilled, then we'll say, a bit bluntly, nobody asked you to do it. The honey owner did not ask him to do it. He volunteered on his own accord. Okay. So now we argue on an opinion that was said before, that the person is mechuyev to do that. That was the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shmuel ben Shmuel. He said that Yoshua ben Nun said that people are mechuyev to help each other and even lose, their own thing and then get compensated afterwards. Our Tana just doesn't believe in that. Our Tana says, listen, the honey guy, the honey owner, although he stood there quietly, he didn't actually say anything, yes or no. So don't say shtika koidah. You acted. You were very quick. You're very, super. These people take the initiative before you even ask them to, kind of thing. So I never asked you to do that. So Lamai said, what the time that you spent, I have to pay you because why you did work for me. But the wine that you spilled, that I never asked you to do, and therefore I'm not mechuyev to give you back the wine. You may ask, why does he have to pay him for the rent of for the time of work? That's a good question. But the wine that you spilled, I never asked you to do that. I don't owe you anything in that respect. The Im Omar, however, if the wine owner, the superhero wine owner, Superman wine hero, said, Atzilas shelcho, v'atenoisen li domi shali. Let's say the wine owner quickly said, things are very urgent here. And the wine owner said, listen, I will save your honey by spilling out my wine and, making room for safe room for your honey, and you'll give me money, chayiv litin loi. So then we assume that if he said, in other words, the first Yisrael says that he agreed. Other Shani may say it could be even shtika karda, like he was told and he speaks, the language and he's a normal guy. So if he's like, yeah, like he didn't resist, he didn't insist, then in a chanami, he'll have to give him the wine. Why? Because it was agreed upon. Before I did my act of heroism, we're almost there. 1 second. Then the wine guy, what did he do? The wine guy said, I'm spilling out my wine for you to save yours. Then and give me money afterwards. Yeah. Then even though there's no ADM and no lawyer's office on the dotted line, there's no time for that. Still, we say it's an agreement. And the honey guy has to give him the value of the wine that he spilled in order to host his friend's honey. Because there was an agreement, there was a verbal agreement. I will be very happy to your question in a minute. A very, very similar case. You okay? Is that a quick one? No, we disagree with that. This Mishnah disagrees with the Takana. This Mishnah says it's not one of the Kosher, says the Rif. The Rosh has another answer. I don't want to now, make you confused. The Rif says simple. It's a machloikas. This Mishnah is the non-friendly Mishnah. Rabbi Shmuel says you're mechuyev, you have to. Our Mishnah says no, you're not mechuyev, and therefore it depends what they spoke. It's a verbal agreement between the Havdil, Mackenzie, and McKinley. Stam, whatever they said. Shotaf nachal chamoiro. Shotaf nachal. A river came, a very gushing, strong river. Yeah, chamoiro v'chamol chaveroi. that river, Samad, was some kind of flood, and both my donkey and my friend's donkey were like swamped into the river, and they're about to drown, I would say, right? So now, oh, Chavero shelo yofe mone. My donkey is worth only 100. My friend's donkey is a BMW donkey. It says BMW on the donkey. He's worth 200, not 100. So now, what a Superman I am. I just left my donkey alone to drown. There's only me here to save. The friend, from some reason, cannot move, and that's another question, which we'll discuss. But now, the friend who is the courageous one he can only save one donkey at a time. He lets his own donkey drown, the 100, and he saves his friend's donkey worth 200. And now he wants money. Give me 100 because I lost my donkey in order to save yours. Yeah, talks like a Jewish mommy. So he only no. There was nothing agreed upon. You jumped into the water. Wow, that was a nice scene to look at. But Lamaisa, I never promised you anything. So you get the sachar. It's a curious dechaver shalom b'rshus. You did something. I'll give you the minimum. Lamaisa, if you remember previous sugyas, many times you do a friend a favor that's worth money you didn't ask for. You do pay him, but only the minimum, right? If you plant a tree, the end of Bava Kama in many places, you plant a tree in your friend's garden. He never asked you to. But Lamaisa is benefiting. So it'll always give you the cheapest tree or the cheapest work, the cheapest version, because I'm marviach, but I never ask you to do it. So the agreement with no agreement is like the minimum. That's the story pashtus over here. Now, but if he says, listen, hey, as the donkeys are drowning, he quickly tells him, he quickly says, I'll save yours on the expense of mine, but pay me mine. If he did not say otherwise, the one being saved, he has to give him. Okay? Has to give him the money. Quick. We're flying over China now. Oh, so I said, I'm trying to say, why would you assume otherwise? First of all, maybe he didn't say yes. He just kept quiet, and we assume shtika koido, right? I think that could be an answer. Well, I guess I also have difficulty. I like your question, Baruch, actually. Thank you. I don't see the chiddush in the second scenario of if there was an agreement, of course you have to keep your agreement. I think because he didn't say anything, and we interpret his shtika as saying, yes, dear. What? Late before we start the Gemara, I'll relate to something you're saying. Why do we need two cases? The two cases are almost identical. That's honey and that's a donkey. They both end with a Y. Yeah, they're both 5 letters. Donkey, they're 6 letters and 1 5. They have both O and a Y. So what's the difference? The Gemara will explain the difference. And why do you need two cases? They're the same case. The Gemara will explain we need both, and the Gemara does not relate to Tzar Balachami. But the Gemara not today. Tomorrow, hopefully, we'll get to the Gemara. Says the Heilige Gemara, Ve Amai. I don't know if you know which country you're in now. Take the Gemara, Ve Amai. Why do you have to pay him anything at all? Whoa. The Gemara is coming from left field. The Gemara is now on the side of the wine guy who spilled the wine and now demands what? He now hosted in his jug the honey. And you know what he says now? I want all the honey, the entire honey, and nothing but the honey. I want it all to keep for myself. What? I'll tell you why. Lei malei, the wine guy can tell the honey guy, mefkera kazachina. When your honey was seriously, quickly, rapidly being lost, you know what state of mind you were? We assume you were. Starts with a yud, and everyone told me the chachami were yush. Before I came, and I violently came with my cloak, I came from outer space and I flew into the scene. Yeah. Then what? Then what happens then? You're miyash completely. So yush means you're not the owner, Miss Honey. You're not the owner. And therefore, it belongs to me. It's like there was an Aveda with Yush, even if it's front of your eyes. We don't need Shinner Shus here because it's an Aveda, not Xela. By Aveda, we don't need Yishal Shus. All you need is Yush. All you need is Yush by Aveda. And the Gemara proves its point. Milotanya, I prove to you that when a person is about to lose something rapidly, we halachically view that as Yush. Unless he's a very, very, very strong Breslover and Yush Ba'alam Klal, 99% of people would say, my honey is mamish falling in the disgusting sand of the desert. That's it. It's lost. So that was your state of mind. I saved you from honey, which wasn't really yours. It was post-yush. And I'll prove it to you. Milotania. I'll prove it from Meiser. Now we're talking about Meiser. A person is loaded with jugs of wine and jugs of oil. The Rosh and Mishtabos, he saw them cracking up and quickly about to break and spill everything. You know this miser does, maybe he's poor, he has a very tricky frum kind of trick to do. Yeah, novel b'shus haTorah. Lo yoimer, he shouldn't say, look, I have other jugs of oil and wine in my house, and that oil and wine that's about to spill, that will be the Trumas and Maasros. Will the coin be able to eat it? No. So what? I'm tricking the system. I got Trumas and Maasros for free. I'll eat all the food in my house, which is 90%. This wine and oil is, let's say, 10% to keep it simple. And the spilling. So what if the spilling? The coin, it doesn't say, and me'ikar hadin, people, me'ikar hadin, all you have to do in order to be able to eat the rest of the food is mafrish, set aside the what? The fruit, the meiser truma. What do you do today when you take truma from meiser? I used to do it as a child, as a teenager all the time. What? Put it in an nylon bag, you throw it. You don't give it to the coin. Me'ikar hadin, you don't have to give it to the coin in order to be able to eat the rest. Yeah? That's what I'm doing. I'm tricking the system. Don't do that. Don't say that. Vim Omar, and if you said that trick, loy Omar klum. You know why lo Omar klum? Not because you're tricking the kohen. You know why? Because this wine and oil are not yours. Because the wine and oil that are about to be spilled into the Fichi desert or the sea or the sewage are in any second, they're on their way down. You're meyash from them. Therefore, you're not the owner. You cannot take meiser from something that's not yours. And Mimela, the same thing over here. Yeah, when the honey owner is already miyash, why is he charging money from Reuven, from the wine owner? The wine owner now owns the honey. Answers the Gemara Nukinta. It's not so fast. Just like Rebbe said later on, regarding a different case, the speed, the velocity of the honey being spilled is not that quick. There is an ekel. There is like a rope. There's kind of like a rope, like the Arabs have on their hands. It's called ekel. Like you have a rope on the chavis, and that holds the crack from cracking more, and it's dripping. It's dripping, pep, pep, pep. But it's not like the whole thing is lost right now. The honey guy is not miyush. It's dripping slowly. He may be on his way to look for somebody else, to call the police, call some nice guy from the village. He's not miyash right away. That's why the wine owner cannot claim everything back, because the honey guy was not miyash, because it's happening slowly enough to be able to save the rest of the honey. You came and you saved me? That's a different story. All you'll get is the schirus. Achinami, in our case too, shekel besabad kol choleo. End of our Mishnah. Now the Gemara is asking, the Mishnah is the same. It was dripping very slowly. Frag the Gemara, what did we say about Meiser before? What was the story with Meiser? Similar story, but I'm alone. Nobody else is in the desert. And all my wine and honey are cracking up. Yeah, it was really funny, the joke. And now the wine and the honey are, I'll make the Meiser on the stuff I have at home. No, you can't do that because they're not really yours. Unless the drip is slow. But if the leak is very serious and it's gushing out, you're meyash. It's not yours. If it's not yours, you can't take Meiser from that onto other stuff. It's ze aloche. Frag the Gemara, is that so? Really? The Omar lo Omar klum. Like, are you sure? Are you sure that the Eved? Of course, the guy's being very nasty to the kohanim to give the kohen something he'll never give him. But are you sure that but leave that alone for now. Are you sure that the Eved lo Omar klum, that it's mamish not meiser? I'll prove you wrong from a different story. Tanya, anybody here was ever mugged by anybody? Okay, don't tell me the story. Tanya, frag the Gemara, a question from a brisa. A person is walking down the street, gingerly walking down the street in neighborhood, and all of a sudden the honest kenegdoi. You see a person right in front of you, walking, towards you, and that guy is very well known to be an honest, to be a robber, to be a mugger, and he has a nice gun in his hand, so nice and friendly. And you know that the next line he'll tell you is not Shalom Aleichem Rebid. He'll tell you the famous line, what? Money or life. And you have money in your pocket. To give money to that guy who's a mugger, why should I give it to him? What? Yeah. The honest kenegdoi, I have a very good trick, says Mr. Guy, who has the pocket, his money in the pocket, and he knows he'll be forced to give it to Mr. Nice Mugger, yeah? And you know what he's going to do now? Again, a frum halachic trick. What he's going to do? Lo yomer, don't say, Harei peros sheyesh li betoch beisi mechulolim almos halalu. You know what he wants to do? He has Meister Sheni fruit in his kitchen. This is not taking place in New York. This is taking place in Lud. Okay? Yeah, and what does the mugger coming coming towards him? He knows he has to give the money and not the life. So he says, you know what? The money I have now, I'm going to be mechalel all the kedusha of Meister Sheni fruit that's in my kitchen. I don't have koch to go to Yerushalayim anyways to eat it in Yerushalayim. What's the other option besides going to Yerushalayim? To be mechalel, redeem it, switch it to the money. So now the kedusha of Meister Sheni fruit that I have in my kitchen, which is 2 streets away, what will I do? I'll be mechalel. Mr. Mugger will get moist with kedushas Meister Sheni. And I hope he knows how to treat them right. That's besides the point. Don't do that. No, that's not a nice thing to do. However, and here comes the punchline, here we have to accentuate, the Amud Varv Kayomin. Oh, but if he said so, his words are applicable. It applies and it works, which means, even though this money, he knows, horror movie, boom, 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 boom. Every step, there's nowhere to run, and the guy's big and strong, he has 2 guns. So you know already now, with all your emunah and bitochon, if you're a normal guy, unless you're one of the Sipur tzaddikim, you are, I like the word, meyash. And yet, so mimela, the money you're meyash from already now is like the oil dripping quickly from your jug, is like the money in your pocket feeling very cold as the guy is approaching you every second. Mimela, I would say, says the Gemara, that if you're meyash from it, you cannot have any halachic application, any halachic act. And yet here we see that although it's not nice to do it lechatchila, for whichever reason, if you did it, it works. Why? Why does it work? Why don't we say that this money is about to be lost any second and already use took place? And if use took place, it's not your money to do anything with. Not Pidyon Meister, not Chilul Meister, and not my grandmother's Meister. Ma Kesher. Asks the Gemara. Answers the Gemara. Easy answer, easy way out. And use ba'olam klal, ach sheli. Ach b'mayas kinan, b'sheyachol lehotzil. No, the mugger is there. I can run away. You think I didn't know karate, judo? I also have a gun. The police is there. It's likely he's going to do something, but I could save it. I'm not meyash. Not meyash. I can face the guy or run away or do this or that. B'chulei. I'll try make him do tshuva, speak to him nicely. All the stories you heard ever. I'll manage, and that's why no complete use. Therefore, what the money is still mine, and I can lechatchila, maybe, what? I can really do any transaction, halachic transaction on it, including Meister Sheni. Did you hear the word lechatchila? Frag the Gemara, if really can save the money, such a big Baal B'tochon, and there is a way out to somehow, avoid the mugger, if so, lechatchila mai lo yoimar. Why not? We just said before, no. Lechatchila, don't say it, right? Lechatchila, don't, that's not a good thing to do. As you face the mugger, to say, this money of mine will be mechulol meiser sheni, fruit. Don't do it, but if you did, it's okay. Why not? If it's such a big Baal B'tochon, and you're going to face the mugger and hit him, or make him do tshuva, or call the police, or I don't know what, then what? Rabbeinu, why can you do lechatchila? So v'vakasha. Answers Gemara, easy. Okay, as I portrayed before, he can save it. What's alidei adchak in good English? In other words, extenuating circumstances, which means like this. Lechatchila, I'm scared of the guy. He's big and strong, and he has a nice knife and this. I could be matzah alidei adchak. In other words, I'm like Sophic. He doesn't. Nice, but no, he doesn't. In other words, it would be a nice idea, by the way. Good kasha, very nice. But no, let's just first define what the Gemara says. Lechatchila, you're in doubt. This money may end up in my pocket, and I'll come home and I'll tell the entire neighborhood what a courageous guy I am. But I was saved from the story. But one side in my heart says, oh no, this guy doesn't get my money. Because this money is Sophic mine, Sophic not mine, kind of. Lechatchila, don't risk it. Sophic deraisa lechumra, don't act upon it, and don't, because he may end up by him. So maybe you are meyuash. You don't know yourself who you're holding in that situation. You may not be meyuash, though halachically, b'di'evet, because you do trust that possibly you'll win over, and therefore b'di'evet it's called good meiser because the money is considered yours. That's okay. I think we can stop here. And with the aleph, it's a good place to stop. There's a little aleph here. And what's today? Today is Wednesday, so can you hear questions? Yes, there. The end is like this. I'll repeat the end. I'll repeat the end very happily, and then I'll hear your question, Baruch. The end was like this. Let's summarize. I'll use Jeff's question as a summary. If we know that the jog, there are three situations: for sure yush, maybe yush, and no yush. If you see the jog is mamish, big crack, and blah, 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 the whole thing is gushing out into the river, into the desert, no police around, nobody around, then it's yush gomor, and you cannot act b'chlal. You're not the owner. You are not the owner. If somebody else comes and takes it, it's his. And meiser, you can't give meiser, no pity, no, you're just not the owner. Bye. If it's dripping slowly, it's like, trickling, boom, boom, boom. There's hope for all the rest. I'll quickly manage. I have a few gallons there. Then what? It's completely yours. You can take meiser. Nobody's allowed to take it from you. I don't need your foolish help, Mr. Chamor owner and Mr. Wine owner, all good. The middle case is somewhere in between. There's a mugger facing you, but you are a karate hero, and maybe yes, maybe no, but maybe you forgot some karate after 20 years in Kola, so you may or may not be the owner of your money in the next few seconds. Then we say the money in your pocket, which you don't know yourself whether you're the owner or not, or halacha doesn't know how to define surely, then mimela lechatchila, don't act upon, don't do any transaction with it, don't make it into pidyon your ma'aser sheni. But the evid, if you did, it works. Like many cases in halacha, there's difference between the chatchila and the evid. Okay, Jeffrey, that was, I think, an elaborate answer to your question. Yes, Baruch, and the shiur is over. Thank you very much. Yes, I'm listening.